Hey, good morning, folks. Today is August 29th. We've just completed 3 weeks of school. We appreciate the questions that keep coming in. We did just get finished with our first week of growth assessments. So if you had a third grader through eighth grader, I'm sure they came home a little tired last week. We had growth assessments in reading and math for grades 3 through 8. So those assessments will serve as baseline measurements for growth assessments throughout the school year. So it was a busy week for our students last week. This is a reminder that we are off school this Friday, and we are also off school Monday. This is our Labor Day weekend holiday, and we'll see everybody in school after the weekend on Tuesday. So the first question that I had this week was some clarification on the bag policy that Principal Watson at the high school sent out. So if you received that information, the Battlefield District now, which we are a member of, has a bag policy which they are enforcing this year, and I was asked to give some clarification on that policy. So we reached out to the Battlefield District, and here's some of the information they gave us. So the bag policy is no backpacks, no book bags, purses that are larger than 12 by 12 by 6 or duffel bags are not permitted in the stadiums for Battlefield games for teams playing Battlefield District. And the following items are permitted. Medical and or nursing bags are permitted. Purses that fit the following measurement, as I mentioned a minute ago, 12 by 12 by 6. You can bring in clear stadium tote bags, and a clear 1-gallon freezer bag is also able to be brought in. Seat cushions, blankets, and umbrellas are also able to be brought in under this new policy. I spoke with Mr. Watson. Obviously, we're going to do our best to enforce this policy as Battlefield has in mind, but we're also conscious of people's needs, and this is going to be a new policy, so there will be certain growing pains with it, and we'll certainly work with you as we all figure out this approach to safety and security, which I think at this point we all fully understand and appreciate. We just got to figure out how to work through some of the challenges. Let's see, I've got a question here about students riding different buses than the ones they were assigned, and how that policy looks across the division. So I reached out to Transportation, and as of right now, because specifically our issues with capacity, if you've been in tune with anything school related across the country, and most certainly in King George as well, there's issues with transportation, having enough bus drivers and making sure that we can get all of our kids to school and home from school. So as of right now, we will not be able to honor students with bus notes asking to ride a different bus home with a friend, or to do something else other than being transported to and from school. If you do have a unique circumstance that we haven't considered and you feel like it's one that we need to know about, please reach out to the Transportation Department, and they'll be able to help you work through those things. There's a few buses that have a few seats on them, but for the most part, particularly on the middle and high school level, our buses are filled to capacity right now. So we're going to limit the number of requests we have for students riding other buses. I got a question about what's going on with, or what's the process for library books at the different schools, and how students are bringing home library books of different levels and of different topics, and some topics that could be controversial. So we reached out to instruction, and we reached out to some of our librarians, and we have actually spent a lot of time in the last year really reviewing our policies and taking a close look at what we do as far as making sure that we are responsive to our community, but we're also open with the amount of instructional materials that we share with our students. And so with all those things considered, if you go online right now for all of our schools, the entire catalog of library books is available online if you want to take a look at them and review them. There are thousands and thousands of books. We also have policies right now, some that I'll mention. We have a school library media center policy. It's policy IIBD-R. Part of that is that we establish regulations for the selection, the evaluation, the withdrawal, and the disposal of all library books. So we keep close tabs on the books that we have. We also have a policy that references public comments about learning resources. So take a look at that policy if you have any issue. That's policy KLB. and that can give you some information on how to reach out to your media specialist if there's a particular book or something of concern related to instructional materials we have. Also, reach out to your media specialist if you would not like your child to be exposed to certain books or things of that nature, because we have a way of marking that in our student information database, and we can make sure that between you're communicating with us and us marking that in the student information database, then we can exclude certain collections of books possibly if that's of your desire. Final question that I had for this week is, will SEL, that's social emotional learning, surveys be given out to kids this school year during the analysis phase? So again, if you weren't with us, we've got a social emotional learning coordinator in the school division now. And in this entire first year of us exploring what social emotional learning means and how we relate those concepts in King George County schools, there was a discussion about what that's going to look like in this analysis year, where we are going to analyze the program and make sure that we fully understand how it's going to roll out to our students potentially in the 23-24 school year. So in speaking with our social emotional learning coordinator, or our wellness coordinator as we're calling her, we are not even to the point where we're even considering surveys right now. We're really just kind of in the grassroots phase of pulling together staff members. We have recognized and tapped the liaisons for each school building, and we're formulating a sequence of meetings where we're going to all get together and talk about exactly what social emotional learning means for King George County on the front end before we reach out to the community and get feedback. There's a lot of things right now in the social emotional learning world that seem to be all thrown into just one big container, and some of those concepts and some of those topics are controversial by nature, and some of them are things that we've done in public schools forever. So we're going to begin to unravel that and have that conversation a little deeper as the year goes on amongst us adults in the school division before we roll it out to students. The second part of that question also, for clarity, can you confirm that no social emotional learning teachings will be infused this school year into the academic instruction? So that part of the question is a little bit more difficult for me to answer because of exactly what I said. Social emotional learning, I know, has got a negative rap right now in certain places because of what I've recently learned is termed transformational social emotional learning, where there's a lot of topics, quite frankly, that are a little controversial across the country. We are not even beginning to dive into those or plan to dive into those topics. However, as I've said before, social emotional learning is something that we have done in schools forever. For example, there's a wheel right now that you may find on the, if you just Google it, about social emotional learning. And that wheel has 5 components. And those components are self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and reasonable decision-making. All of those concepts fall under the umbrella of social emotional learning. And all of those concepts have been taught in schools well before I even attended elementary school. So as an example, self-management. My wife's a kindergarten teacher. She teaches students to stand in a line, keep your hands to yourselves, and walk to music class. That is self-management. Responsible decision-making. I'm a former high school principal. I spent most of my days talking to students about making responsible decisions. Taking a full awareness of your surroundings, analyzing situations, problem solving. All of those things is what I did on a daily basis as a high school principal. There's a section in there about relationship skills. And part of that is working collaboratively. We do science labs all the time, and we're teaching our students to make sure that they can work with a partner or work with a group. And so to say we're not going to teach social emotional learning, it's happening. It's always happened. It's got a negative rap right now because of some of those transformational concepts that I mentioned a minute ago. We're not even beginning to go there. But we will talk about, things like social awareness, So examples of social awareness are asking kids to raise their hands in classrooms, or taking turns to talk, being familiar with who's around you, and understanding the concept that you listen before you talk. Like I said, raising hands. So there's all those things right now that we do in school that really fall under that umbrella of social emotional learning. So those things are happening and will happen. Some of the more confrontational things we're staying clear of. And the adults in the building right now are taking a deep dive and a very slow and cautious and methodical approach to how we continue to roll some of those concepts out. And don't forget that we will certainly reach out to the community and anybody that's interested in having a conversation about some of these concepts before we deliver some of these lessons to students that go beyond some of the things that we've already done in schools. So I thank you guys. It is a short week. It's a 4-day school week this week. So Friday and Monday, you get a nice, well-deserved long break. So we'll see everybody Tuesday of next week, and it's going to be September by the end of this week. So our first month of school is already over. Thank you guys. Keep the questions coming. I love the questions. It's really brought us together as members of the school division, because we can focus and have really in-depth conversations about the things that are on your minds. Your questions and your concerns drive our mission. So thank you guys, and we look forward to more questions. Thanks.